I think that some congratulations are in order because you've just been awarded the Polish Order of Merit, have you not?
Yes, exactly.
Now, does this relate to the work you did in Eastern Europe?
Yes, this was just a week or so ago. There was the 30th anniversary of the first free elections that took place in Poland, first free elections after the communist collapse in Eastern Europe. And so there was a big celebration for this, and they singled me out as someone who was symbolically important because I'd been involved. But my involvement was not at all overt or well known. I spent a lot of time in those days making contacts among the underground in Poland, Czechoslovakia and Hungary, and putting people into relation with their Western colleagues, taking them materials, giving them talks as well, because they were completely out of their depth when it came to trying to understand the geopolitical situation. Nobody had ever explained to them that there was such a thing as conservatism or a liberal current of opinion within socialism and all that. So we had I and a lot of colleagues had a very good time going around to the places where people had got together to educate themselves. And that's something I've always believed in, that civil society consists of those little platoons that Burke recommends to us. Those platoons had all been abolished in Eastern Europe, yet people were groping their way towards them again. So it was very inspiring to visit the places where they were and help people to set themselves on their feet. It wasn't safe, of course.
I was going to say, it must have been dangerous.
Well, it was, but one was followed often, and but I went on getting a visa to go in to Poland right to the end, not to Czechoslovakia. I was arrested there, but as long as you were careful and prepared things properly, we were always a step in advance of the secret police, because it was a time when everything was changing. We had computers, they had only just begun to envisage a computer. We even had among our underground contacts somebody who produced the first software for the Czech language. So we had that before the secret police had it. So there was quite a difference in technological availability for us. But it wasn't safe, but for that very reason it was there was something inspiring, because you knew that whoever you were talking to was taking a risk.
Yes.
So talking to you was more important to him than the possibility of 6 months in jail.
Isn't that really rather like English academia now?
I have to say I have been distressed to see the parallel. When I first went to Czechoslovakia in 1979, this was after the Charter 77 movement, which had tried briefly to establish relations with the West of an open kind. All my colleagues in the university who had signed the charter were either still in jail or anyway not allowed to teach. They were doing menial jobs, sweeping streets or stoking boilers. And one of the most important procedures that had been used against them was the denunciatory letter. Right. They would, their colleagues in their department would find a letter on their desk one morning issued by the secret police denouncing a particular colleague for having signed the charter or for having associated with people who did, and accusing him of subversion of the Republic in collaboration with foreign powers and all this sort of thing, and asking for a signature from the person on whose desk it was to add his name to the call for this person to be dismissed. Right. And that's what we're seeing in universities here now. Letters of denunciation formulated by totalitarian students who've got no conception of recent history, don't read books, but are full of a kind of undigested venom towards the world of culture into which they should be longing to incorporate themselves, but for some reason they can't do it. And they see these professors with old-fashioned views, who might not have the absolutely up-to-date vision of whatever it is the issue of the day, transgenderism or whatever it might be. And so he's ripe for denunciation. We've seen this with several cases recently. And the university, many of the universities just capitulate and say, yeah, well, that's his fault.
And I think you've referred to this recently, but it's possibly the kind of death, isn't it, of university?
Well, if it's not stopped, it will be the death certainly of humanities departments. I think in the sciences it will still, people will still go on, but science, when, as it were, isolated from the rest of culture, becomes a very dreary thing, and people become alienated from it. All the great scientists of our time, if you look back at Einstein and and Freud and Piaget and all those people, they were highly cultivated people, and for them their intellectual development could never have been confined to something like a laboratory. It was a form of dialogue with civilization as a whole. And if that goes, I mean, it hasn't gone, because I know some wonderfully cultivated scientists today, but if the humanities departments are taken out of universities, that's a very great loss to science as well.